People think I'm joking when I say the thing about when the Etruscans decided we're going to stop walking around, we're going to make Rome, right? We know that the Etruscans were the traveling people that became Rome. I'm certain it was because they said to themselves, oh, there's water sources nearby, there's good degrees of inclination so that we can build an aqueduct system and blah blah blah. And they must have been able to see the value of not traveling anymore and being able to make this place where we can bring running water to it. And you're saying to yourselves, we're going to stay here permanently, we need a large source of water. They would have been thinking about kind of grander infrastructures projects, which we know that then later became Rome. And I'm not saying that it happened all, pre-planned, because most cities would have been an organic development over time, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying the technology and the ability for us to stop at some point and start a city, it would have been pretty fucking impressive right from the beginning of starting that city. So I'm just like, sure, the stone cement aqueduct pieces that have lasted for the last 2,000 years, I'm not saying those were pre-planned necessarily, but they would have made wooden structures similar to those ahead of time. Well, there's no evidence of things like this in the past. This is from modernity's cleverness or modernity's creativity. I'm like, no. We are probably less creative than we were when we were hunter-gatherers, aboriginal tribes, because you had to be smarter. You had to know so much more about herbs. You had to know so much more about animals. You had to know so much more about the environment and your in situ materials, right? You have to know, because again, like we think we were bands of traveling orgiers. People want to have an orgy near a hot spring. Humans, we like hot springs. It's pretty obvious. The world is littered with our traveling and being in these certain spots where we obviously liked to be, because you can see our human anthropological remnant. Just amazing.
And you have to know it to survive.
Right, because otherwise you're dead. If you didn't know and remember this stuff.
If you didn't know how to make shelter, you would die.
Right, and if you're human and you got to make shelter all the time, you're going to make good shelter.
Yeah, we're lazy today. We have everything handed to us.
Right, yeah, because we've systematized it.
We don't have to know what berries to avoid in the forest, because we're not usually in the forest.
Yeah, we as individuals for sure have absolutely, I think, dumbed down. I think that's why we have this state of today where people are like, why do we only use 10% of our brain? Isn't that weird? Why would we have evolved evolutionarily this brain only needing 10% of its capacity? Because we would have used a lot more, I think, 300,000 years ago when we had to, right? Because if it's a honey badger, if it's an alligator, if it's a lion, a tiger, a bear, oh my, we can handle ourselves, right? Again, like I always say, sure, the jungle's going to get some of us. We're not perfect, we're not immortal, but we as humans have been badass for a long time. And when you're that badass, you have time to be creative. So like I said, when 100 folks pull up to a nice hospital, hey, this looks like a nice place. You think, we could orgy here all spring, right? Plenty of animals to hunt. When we're done with our orgy, we'll go on our hunting and we'll have our banquets and we'll have our bacchanalias. We'll have everything that history has shown us and told us that we've done ever since the beginning of civilization, which means we obviously did those things before civilization, because just the obvious logic there, to where we would have had time to be clever as fuck. So when 100 people showed up at a nice place for a hot spring, it's not like we would have just made some shitty lean-to that like, okay, we're gonna enjoy the hot springs, we're gonna do some fucking, and then we're gonna hang out in this shitty lean-to, and we'll just, primitive camp until we get bored having sex near this hot spring, and then we'll travel some. No, that's not how humans would have rolled. And that's not how
we like to be comfortable way too much.
Exactly.
For that.
Our Aboriginal tribes show us that. Our Native American tribes show us that. Our Arabian Bedouins show us that. I mean, these people liked to fucking travel in comfort. We were master nomads. You know what I mean? There aren't very many animals that have traversed the globe the way we did and the way we can. And people say, well, there is no record. Why don't we find it? Because nature would reclaim this the first big storm that took place. The jungle's always changing shape. Torrential rainslide. Mountains move. Fires take our structures out and we build our structures to survive. Lightning takes our structures out. Hurricanes take our structures out. Modernity's structure. But nature would easily reclaim stuff of this temporary nature, and we as traveling Bedouins or Native Americans or Vikings or whatever, as traveling folk, we don't care if it gets wiped away, because we're not going to be, we're moving on for the season.
And if we come back to the same season, we'll want something new anyways.
We'll want something different anyway, right? Because I
mean, like we have always wanted more variety, and to be comfortable. But in our early married days, it was like every 9 months we were itching. We didn't necessarily move every 9 months, but that's when the itch started. We would get anxious.
An anxious itch, like it's time to move on. To this new place.
Do something new. And I think that would have been the same thing.
Oh yeah, ancient man wasn't going to be struck with the wanderlust bug. No, ancient man. I mean, that's why we have wanderlust. We have wanderlust because it's genetically in our DNA. We're remembering.
But if you circle back to that same place, you're going to want something new by that point. Because a whole other year has gone by, or 2 or 5, or however long it takes you to come back.
Exactly, true. Because the other thing too is that I'm like, I don't think, when I say seasonally, I'm not necessarily meaning like every fall. They go back to this place, and they have this.
No way, the world's too big.
The world is way too big, exactly. And they would have been, ancient human was all about the wanderlust, right?
Yeah.
I mean, again, we had so much wanderlust, and we stood on the shores of continents and looked out at oceans, and we're like, yeah, there's got to be something that we can do. Yeah, there's something we can do out there. Let's go for it. Let's fucking do it. Yeah, here we go.